Hi everybody, welcome to Watkins Glen, welcome to the Finger Lakes. I'm super excited to have everybody here. I'm Johnna Frosini and I'm going to moderate the university chats today. There is no formal agenda, it's anything goes. So bring your concerns, your challenges. We're here to help strategize together and develop some solutions. Okay, perfect. What I want to do is just go around the room first, just talk about your college, what you do there, and what concern or just some topic of discussion that you have today for us. So again, Johnna Frosini, SUNY Brockport, I want to talk about LPR and event parking, okay? I'll start with you.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, my name is Laura Moore. I'm from the Binghamton area. I work with Bob and his company, Eastern Energy Solutions, primary LED lighting. But one of the things that we have done recently with Upstate College was Herkimer University. We installed ultraviolet germicidal irradiation throughout all of their HVAC systems. They did it throughout the whole campus-wide, and they paid for all of it 100% grant with COVID grant money. So that was one of our recent successes with college. But we work a lot in all aspects: colleges, hospitals, manufacturing, anything and everything, lighting, and now we're expanding into electric vehicle charging stations. Of course, a lot of people are. It's a big push, as we all know. So that's basically what we've been doing. Bob is the president of Eastern Energy Solutions.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. She just told it all.
Yeah. That's why you brought her, right, Bob? Yeah. Oh, thank you. We can definitely tap into your knowledge, so I appreciate you being here. Thank you. You're next.
I'm Dave Stewart from the SUNY Brockport. I'm the senior parking attendant, and what I'd like to talk about also is switching to LPR, and along with that, events and parking problems that you do or don't have with the actual events.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew Reitmeyer with University of Buffalo, Assistant Director of Parking Services. I have we're implementing LPR, so I have some knowledge to share, but also some knowledge to take in as well. And I would love to learn about anyone that is charging for special events or charging departments for guests.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Austin, also from University of Buffalo. I am interested in hearing about any new or potential Uber, Lyft agreements within any of our campuses, and also any agreements you might have in the works with your regional transit authorities, or if you have one already, how they're working for your university or college.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm Joel Mazeka. I'm the Transportation Services Manager at RIT. I actually just made the switch to transportation from parking enforcement about 3 months ago, so a little bit new on that. I think the thing that's impacting us the most that I would love to hear anybody else's input is essentially driver availability and being able to get enough drivers to support the campus transit systems.
Thank you, Joel.
Hello, I'm Joseph Fazio. I'm with Park Mobile. I'm the account manager for the Northeast, but up until August of this year, I was the technology manager for the University of South Florida down in Tampa. So I will have ideas, but sit quiet off to the sideline.
Awesome.
Oh no, you got to tell us how to get people in the Park Mobile spaces, please.
Okay, all right.
Or how are metered
How
and
are we
paid parking
using them?
going? Because we're seeing a decrease for sure.
I do love that topic, and yeah, we'll be sure to hit that since I'm moderating. I can pick what I want. All right, okay. Hi.
Hi, I'm Michael Leather. I work for Creative Bus Sales, so I also don't plan on trying to contribute too much because I don't want you guys to roll your eyes at me too much. So no, I'm here just mostly to learn. I'm a new salesperson to New York, so I just want to learn about the problems you guys have and see if I could hopefully solve them in the next couple of years, or work on solving them, I should say. I'm not coming here saying I know everything.
We think you do.
I like to pretend. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you for being here, Michael.
Of course.
Amy Shipos, Ithaca College, Parking Services and Transportation Coordinator. Big old fancy word for parking manager. is basically what we're gonna sum that to. Basically, I'm interested in learning about LPR because we're actually thinking of converting to LPR at IC finally.
Thank you.
Good afternoon all. Christian De Leon with Premium Parking. Here to take in a lot of knowledge and hopefully share how premium parking could help out with your current issues and challenges.
Fantastic.
Hi, Heather Matthews. I'm here as Vice President of the New England Parking Council, as well as our President for Premium Parking. Prior to that, I actually was Systems Admin and Operations Manager at the University of Vermont, where we went gateless, cashless, meterless, and we had 32 surface slots and one big parking garage, and it went really well, and that's what Premium supports, so it's kind of been a fun journey. So thank you, Heather.
Oh, sorry. I'm Catherine Ross. I'm just going to throw her spitball. I work with a company called Structure Care. We are a design, build, restoration firm. I was sitting over on the side as not to intrude on the conversation.
I'm Ward. I'm also with Structure Care, part of the business development team for the New York and New Jersey territories.
And also a board member.
Hi.
Sure. Hi, I'm Paul Young. I'm with Juice Bar Electric Vehicle Charging. I'm presenting at the next session, but I'm happy to be involved here as well.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm part of the production team.
Directed by Kevin Wood. That's right. Volunteer. Jason.
So I'm Jason Jones. I'm the Director of Parking and Mass Transit Services at the University of Albany, and I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank Johnna for organizing this specific session. It's been very successful in the past, so I very much look forward to just hearing about what everybody is doing, and kind of just chime in where needed.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, so we have everybody's concerns. How about we start with LPR? Seems like there's a lot of component, whether it's event parking, maybe how you integrate it with, your cash or your contactless apps, that type of thing. And Matthew and Chris, it sounds like you're pretty much on the way to rolling that out. I don't know if you want to talk about things you've learned, how we can prepare, and how you plan to use it.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
I'll give you a summary of what we've done to date. So we are going to install LPR in 3 vehicles for a mobile enforcement solution, 2 Transit Connects, like those little white vans, and 1 Jeep Patriot. And we plan to do away with hang tags and use license plates as your permit. Okay, so kind of a foreign concept for people that are not in parking. And basically, we started, I want to say end of July, early August, we started the kickoff meetings. And we're working, T2 hosts our database, it's a cloud-hosted solution, and they work with Genetech and SW24. SW24 is the reseller, and they're here today if you want to get more information from them. Basically, there are 3 components of the process that you need to get the ball rolling. There's a customer questionnaire that's most likened to like a checklist. Do you have the right computers at your workstations to hold the software to make it run, all that stuff? Do you have people on staff that are going to, sort of work through the process? Campus partners that are going to help you, work with the infrastructure and the application and all that stuff. And lastly, it identifies the vehicles. It's basically part of the ordering system for the hardware. The next part is what is called a truth table, and it's basically an Excel file that lists all of your parking lots with different access points and restrictions within each, and then down this side would be all of your parking permits and basically your clientele who can park where. And you have to map all of that out for them so they can piece these things together. And the last part is geographical information points. So basically mapping out your lots. And those, it's a new term to me. It's KML or KMZ files that you have to pull down from Google Earth. So they kind of throw these things together and map out the exact points. So as the vehicle drives, it identifies where it is and who has access within those 4 points that you're mapping. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We just submitted that stuff last week. Right now it's in the hands of Genetech, who is building the database and going to do the programming on their end. And then November 1st is our date to have the hardware installed. And then by November 5th, we will have a training session, and we'll be able to begin using the hardware and the software the following week.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So talk to us about how you're going to use it. We talk about permissions, right?
Mhm.
You talk about where you can park, what time you're allowed to park, that type of thing. How about also events or casual guests coming for the day? Is that something you're going to include in your program?
Eventually.
Yeah.
I like this. I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I think we're really nailing down the basics for a rollout, and we're not trying to be too complicated with it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to build in different directions once we get the ball rolling.
I'll add to that, we issue 18,000 student permits each year, combined commuter and resident, and another 8,000 faculty staff permits. So the lion's share of our groups are going to be, we're going to be able to enforce those spaces with this new technology, which I think is one of the most important parts that we hope to glean from it is that efficiency, one, but two, the data and being able to have lot counts and capacity through the day right now.
Yes.
Like many of us, we have folks go around manually counting spaces. So we're looking forward to having that technology that allow us to export the number of open spaces on a regular basis, whether it's hourly or every few hours.
And please,
And-
somebody,
Are you
Yeah.
strictly
Oh, sorry.
mobile? You're not doing anything fixed LPR, just mobile?
It's all mobile, yeah.
how about the beauty of pushing the power back to the parker, meaning they're managing their own account, right? No longer do they have to come in to the office, and if they lose their permit, they have to, now with LPR, they're managing their own. They have that power to go online. In fact, it's like a requirement, really. I mean, so good communication, a good PR kind of plan put together.
And some savings on the, no more permits, that's, again, 26 some odd thousand parking permits
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
won't be purchasing. And there's the sustainability part, that's that much fewer plastic and vinyl that we're putting up in
Yeah.
the environment.
But also from a
So-
customer service point, I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt.
no.
From a customer
Take
service
it.
standpoint, everyone that works at a university or college is familiar with the beginning of the semester, and maybe you experience it or not, like those lines of
Long
people,
lines.
right? And that's,
Yeah.
it's such a dread for your customer service team to see hundreds of people standing in front of you and having the same conversation hundreds of times each day. So to forego that, I mean, obviously, upon rollout, you're gonna be fielding calls like, what do I need to do? Are you telling me I don't get a hang tag? There'll be a lot of questions like that, but that's great. We're not gonna have 200 people standing in front of us looking to get a parking permit.
Jill, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to call out two folks that we have spoken to who are further ahead than we are. One is our neighbor, not too far from here at Binghamton. They're probably 2 or 3 years into using LPR. And then Rutgers, who has 5 campuses and parking garages. They're using their LPR in their parking garages as well. So it's pretty neat to talk to some of these folks who are using it in more, I'd say, intricate operations.
I think Jill can probably add. RIT's been using.
Oh yeah, RIT, we went live with it back in the fall of 2014. I will tell you, even now, you know, 7 years out, you will still be getting the questions, what do you mean I don't get a hang tag?
Yeah.
What am I paying for?
Exactly. Not quite so many of those, but yeah, RIT, we've been utilizing, we've got 3 mobile LPR units. We've had 2 operational since 2014. The 3rd one went online in 2016, 2017. We're kind of actually in a unique environment right now because our laptops were basically at end of life, so we're installing new equipment with IK Systems, who's our new supplier for Genetech. So we went from Dell laptops to the Panasonic ToughPads. They just work a lot better, more reliable, And we're also in the process of upgrading the vehicle-mounted cameras as well. Those are also kind of on their way out after 7 years of continual use. I would say it's a phenomenal program. It's just, it helps to have realistic expectations of things. Like wintertime, it's gonna be a lot harder to figure out efficiencies and whatnot, because even a little bit of snow and debris on those license plates are gonna throw off your reads. So it really puts a lot of onus on your enforcement officers. We currently use the T2 e-ticket book. I don't know if you guys are you're gonna go with the mobile enforcement app instead? Yep. Okay. And we do have a fixed LPR. Interestingly, the way that one kind of functions, we have it on approach to our info booth, and because it doesn't function the same way as like a patroller software, we inputted essentially a whitelist. So anybody that has any type of permit on campus, as they approach, they get flagged in the monitoring system, and it just lets the attendant know, okay, this person already has a permit, so if they're asking for, say, a visitor permit, well, you're not a visitor, you have a permit, you need to be, parking as that allows. So.
I have a question. Do you capture lot counts and space utilization?
No, only because few things. We have different types of parking within a lot of our lots. So like maybe the front half will be like a tier higher reserve parking, and then the back half is going to be general parking. So we have to switch between enforcement protocols between those. Also, we've come across some of and I'm sure we've all seen them, the really bad license plates that have like a little bit of paint holding on for dear life. Sometimes the cameras will pick that up, and it will scan that thing about 7 or 8 times before you finally pause the camera.
Okay. The reason I ask is because something that Chris and I are focusing on is trying to publish those lot counts externally and just get information out there so folks know when they arrive to campus there's a 75% likelihood that they're going to find a space in a certain lot. So to reduce some of that circling, and there's a term on campus that's used, it's sharking. Where you, follow people and steal their spot. So one of the goals of the system is that.
How does RIT or other campuses utilize LPR for events, and do you charge for events, spectators?
So we did that at the University of Vermont, and one of the ways we did that is we have people pre-register for events, and so they're able to pre-register through a link sent out through our events department. When the event takes place, there's a form, and that form gets filled in, and while I was there, we finally implemented so that you had to put in your parking needs for that form. And so that would come to our events manager, and they would get that set and send out a link, and then that link would go to the attendees, and the attendees could put their plates in, and then it's registered. And it would talk back to the LPR. So.
How successful were you in getting the host of that event
because
to comply and get that information?
Well, and that because we had a full events, most universities have a full events department, and so the events department would manage that piece of it and make sure that that was all taken care of. And it definitely, it was much better than placards that they were printing out and putting on their windshields. So it's pretty. I mean, when I left before it was fully implemented, but it was definitely working when I left.
So that seems to work for an event that offers pre-registration?
Pre-registration, correct.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts about that?
As much as I would love to say we could do something like that, we keep getting a lot of pushback. as far as, well, I don't want my guests to have to do an extra step other than print out a parking pass or just go to a parking lot.
We just didn't give them the option.
How about,
I like that.
No, I mean, you just,
well, yeah, I hear you.
you have to have buy-in though from your uppers. I mean, that is.
You really do.
Yes.
How about our Park Mobile friends or other service providers? I believe, and I don't want to speak for Park Mobile, I'll let you do that, but I believe some of those suppliers offer department accounts to help host events. And I'm sorry if that isn't something that, part of your package deal, but in that way, they can kind of, again, manage their own, or, whether the department's giving out a code for that. And I'll let you speak in just a second, but I'm going to lose this thought, and I apologize. That's also good for pay stations. We have our pay stations set up where if the department agrees to, reimburse or actually pay for their guest parking, Dave issues a code, and the guest is informed to drive up to that pay station, insert that code, and we invoice at a later date type of thing. But I'd love to hear from Park Mobile or other suppliers that are here that can offer some solutions that are similar to that.
Yeah, I was holding back because I don't want to get into some sort of a sales or anything, right? Obviously, so that's not what I'll have any intention of doing. But what I can say is there's many options that we can look through and figure out to see what would fit for the exact environment and the exact setup. I know I've been working with Matt over at U Buffalo for getting Park Mobile integrated into the LPR system, so when it's live, the data will flow. For the events, there is the reservations platform that we have, so we can do pre-reservation for events that are on campus and feed that into LPR. We also have on demand that can be done, so if someone shows up day of an event, they can pay and it'll still flow over to the LPR system. So there's definitely lots of options, but yeah, without trying to make a sale, right?
No, thank you.
That's
I
not the
called on
intent.
you.
Yes.
And we at Premium, we have Glide Eye, which is also an LPR system, and we have our Glide Parks, and so you can have business accounts or whatever, and you can send out codes.
Fantastic.
And they just talk right to each other, so.
And just to add to that, business accounts where you alluded earlier to, putting the onus back on the parker, each department would be able to manage the validations and pre-approved if the parking is going to be at a discount or free of charge. We would be able to set up all those different programs throughout.
Fantastic. Great. Anything else on the topic of LPR, event parking? Yes.
Because I was the project manager for going live with LPR at USF, one of the benefits that we found that I don't think anybody was expecting was that once you're on a virtual permit, you can be very fluid with your dates if you need to be. So through COVID and things changing a lot, we were able to take our next year's permits and start selling them earlier. In theory, we could have, prior to sale, changed the end date as well. Because there was nothing printed, it wasn't that we needed a 6, 3, whatever month lead time to know that information. We were able to just make the change in the system and then start sales. And so that's a huge benefit that I don't think really gets thought of, because once they're virtual, it's just database information. There's nothing printed, and so you can change things. And that's not to say that you would take away on the end, but you could shift the date range if you needed to, which was a really nice benefit.
Flexibility of that. That's wonderful.
I'm just really curious. I was in Vermont, and now I'm in Maine, and you guys all had in New York. There was LPR laws I actually just found out in Maine we can't do LPR unless it's done through a state police or transit authority. And so I'm just curious what the laws in New York are. Obviously you guys are implementing, so I'm assuming there's nothing holding you back. And has it always been that way? Or
the only issue that we had wasn't parking related, it was the red camera for traffic control.
Yep.
But other than that, I haven't heard of any.
I do recall that policy manual that our IT folks sent out to us. It was law enforcement based, but it was policy specific that kind of spoke to it. Our usage being something that was a valid use of the technology.
I think it was around lookup of DMV records. I think that was the obstacle. But just used for enforcement, you're able to do local enforcement.
Scofflaw, I think, is an issue
Correct.
in New York State.
Correct.
Gotcha.
To your point.
Right.
Asking a question out of complete ignorance, because I'm just really curious now.
Yeah.
As the guy from Pennsylvania who always backs into a spot so his license plate doesn't get read, how does that work?
We're a two-plate state.
Yeah, but you you have out-of-state students, don't you?
Oh.
Yeah, for somebody who
True.
used to have to deal with that, it would be pull in front of the vehicle, silently curse as I get out to walk around and check the plate, and then go back into the vehicle and input the data.
It's
But-
even better when they back into bushes.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I would
Or
say the
snowbank.
one-plate states,
Yeah,
though,
snowbank, yep, been there.
they actually have requirements in their policies, a couple that I've seen, that you have to park in a certain way so that they can be read.
Yeah, okay.
Tell you that doesn't go over well when
I
you
was gonna
implement
say,
that
I can
in
see that
Florida.
happening.
Yeah.
That was necessary, yes.
And I believe, I want to say there was a university in Florida that for, parkers that only had the one plate and wanted the flexibility of being able to go nose in, nose out, they actually offered up an on-campus plate that was also their permit that they could affix to the front so that the readers would also,
It was us, USF, and then University of Miami did the same thing
Yep.
for a non-state university, yeah.
And I think it's a
Go
good
over well
opportunity to
either.
mention that I keep telling our team that, let's not lose hold of the human element. So there's still people in the vehicle that are, operating this thing and making it work. So if you need to get out and use your eyes and your hands, brush off
Yeah.
the license plate or whatever, you can still do that. It's not 100% automated.
You're gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Joel,
with-
I'm
oh, no, please, Dave.
Joel, did you find, how did it work well with, or did it work well with stacked plates with, 2 rows of like letters up on top and numbers down below?
oh, yeah. Again, it's been a little bit since I've been out in the field, but it really does not like those stacked plates. And generally speaking, it's gonna be up to how your department wishes to, set those up as far as enforcement goes. I know, is it Maryland is usually pretty like on point, so it's the one number, the 2 stacked letters, and the remaining numbers. But I've seen a few in which they'll have like 2 stacked letters at the beginning.
Delaware.
Yeah, Delaware. So I had one student arguing with us at one point. It's like, well, that's not actually part of my license plate. Well, if it's on the plate, yeah, it is. So you need to have those 2 digits right in the front. But again, it goes back to the human element. Your enforcement agents, especially with the way Patroller works, it's not hard to just tap on the license plate, make the correction, and get the data sent back through.
Patrick or Kevin, do we have anybody in the chat at all? Staying on LPR, we're good?
10 healthy people watching.
That
Wow,
is
that's great.
wonderful.
Great
Hello,
job.
everybody. Welcome. Event parking, kind of staying along that theme, if you don't mind. Who's charging for events? We're like 50%, 50% of the events. Tell me how it works for you. So is it intercollegiate athletic events as well?
We're off the LPR subject.
Yeah, we are,
Yeah,
but we
okay.
could, yeah.
No, just,
Yeah.
so you're asking about general event parking? So at the University of Albany, yes, we charge for almost all of our events. We do that through either a flat rate fee or we have the suite of options, pay and display, you can purchase an e-permit. You can come into our office, you can, whatever. So in that aspect, we have the normal range of offerings, visitor lots, meters for your daily visitors, but for large events, traditionally what we do is we work with the various departments, and we do offer a flat rate fee in a lot of instances. So we'll waive ticketing in a particular location, we'll offer them parking, they'll cover the cost of parking plus, about halfway what loss of revenue would be for any citations that we would traditionally issue. What that does is, we do this with almost every department now, and over time, word got out that it worked really well, then the next department called us, the next department. So we have a whole host, a couple dozen of departments that actually work with us. And what they do is advertise in the beginning of the semester that says parking is available here, free of charge as a courtesy, and the departments pretty much pick up the cost. So it makes it very seamless for the guests coming in. And this is also too, we do also advertise if you want parking like up front or up close, you can pay if you'd like, but we do offer courtesy parking in a specific general lot that everybody goes to. So throughout the University of Albany, we do have athletic events, which is a little different, but your general events, your performing arts, your museum, your conferences, we do a flat rate fee. We also do the other stuff, like I said, the validation codes, paint display, whatever it might be. But the flat rate fee has been a huge revenue generator for us because one, we get the people that are coming in without ticketing and then waiving those tickets, because let's face it, in the university we get a lot of this, oh, I had an event and I screwed up, I didn't tell you, so you wind up waiving the ticket, or it's just uncomfortable. And two, from a guest standpoint, they come in, they don't have to worry about paying the park or putting something on their dashboard or anything like that. So it's made the guest experience so much better that I often have said that parking, you don't want to be talked about during like the cocktail hour, the event was great, but parking was X, Y, and Z. You want to not talk about parking.
Right.
You came in, it was easy, and it works.
Yeah. I love that, Jason. And so we do much similar things to what Albany's doing, but I think some of the hiccup is a lot of our events are actually hosted where there's classroom settings. So trying to reserve the area and the resource it takes to have our attendants there. You could probably speak better to that, Dave. But we still have some challenges on making it.
Also, as far as people having the events, getting in touch with us in a timely manner so you can arrange something. 24 hours just doesn't do it. What basically ends up, if somebody wants something in 24 hours, it's us blocking off a section of the parking lot and going there, where I would go as far as 48 hours would be enough to do the preparing for them, and also for them to prepare for what we're going to give them as far as parking, whether it's going to be paid, whether it's going to be a sectioned out area. I love the fact that you have a flat rate. I think that would work great for us, the flat rate. And it takes the problem away from both the host and the people coming. Do it that way.
I would say too, we do a lot of really, not looking for the word, but really down to the basic levels. We have an event management system on campus. So if you're having an event on campus, you have to enter it into the event management system, which generates an email to our office that says you're having said event, right? So we get that. But what we also do, our staff, we do go through the university like a separate event pages or department web pages seeking out events, or we get these emails that say today at New Albany, and you look and you see there's events or they're upcoming, we'll reach out to those apartments. So sometimes actually some of the stuff we do similar to the association. I'll go out there and just randomly email people or call them because I'll type in New York City schools and I'll see a list. I'll start calling them. Hey, why aren't you a member of the association? I do the same thing with our events, or our parking team at the University of Albany. We go through a list, and we actually call people and say, hey, I saw an email come through, you're having an event in 2 weeks, we don't have anything on it. So we do that outreach as well. It really, but again, over time, the more people that hear about it, about how well it's going, they'll actually begin to reach out to you, and it's made it so much better. It's taken a long time, but it's way better than it ever was. So
great.
Yeah.
We did the similar thing with EMS and using EMS and utilizing, it took us 5 years to finally get and add parking to the EMS system. Once we did it, we did it a flat fee, and we also put our labor costs in there as well. So there's this flat fee that covers everything. So you say, I need 50 spaces. Well, then they're going to pay this rate, and that rate takes care of everything for the event.
So it's dependent upon how many parkers are coming and
Correct.
you have, yeah.
Yep,
that's- we tried
it
that
is a
too.
flat fee, but it's per
Yeah,
Do you ever-
perfect.
Do you ever get folks that like will reach out and say, hey, like I know there's this system, but it's only 10 spaces. Can I squeak by? Could you not charge
All
me
the
the
time.
flat fee?
Oh, absolutely.
What's your
You'll
response?
get that, admissions. I think we all know that, right?
Yeah.
And the admissions department
100%.
basically wants carte blanche, so,
Mhm.
you know, that's, I don't know if that'll ever go away. But yeah, we finally hired an events manager in our department, and he did a great job in having someone manage the system. He knew EMS, he managed EMS, and just really all the calls that came in, you gotta use EMS.
Yeah.
You gotta use EMS, and just over and over again until it sunk in. Yeah, I'm sure there's one-offs. Admissions is definitely one of them.
Did you always charge for parking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you implement it or was it there when you got there?
I implemented it.
You did you? Who was your
Yeah.
best campus partner to get it implemented?
Ooh, good question.
VP of Finance.
The best partner. I can't give you that answer, Matthew, but really it just became one event at the time. Started with athletics, moved to the Performing Arts Center, moved to the Writers Institute, moved to the Art Museum. Athletics was kind of in, so, and when she talks about admissions, we sell admissions 6 months worth of validation codes at a time. That when someone registers for a tour, they get an automatic response with the validation code in it. So when an admissions visitor comes in, they just push in the code. So when you have 10, you know, you can do that as well. So it actually snowballs over time, and the word does get out there. So yeah, again, I mean, we really did start with, I want to say like the Performing Arts Center was really kind of our first client, and then it's mushroomed. And actually, I actually have a pulled staff member to now be like, not that we probably all don't, but like an events coordinator specifically that handles all the billing and scheduling of said events for parking, because we have such a handle on it now. We had to create a side position to do that. So it's a good problem versus, again, the guest comes in, they get a ticket, and then someone calls you, or the guest says, you know, you get that 4-paragraph email at 1 a.m. that says they're never coming back, they're never donating to the school again, never doing this again. Even if you waive the ticket, it doesn't matter, you know. So
Matthew, the way that we implemented paid guest parking is we had a consultant come in, and because we're self-supporting, you know, we pay for all the maintenance and snow removal, capital projects, what have you. You know, that was our case that we brought to admin and finance, which I am blessed because I fall under that umbrella. So finance, boom, yeah. And so with that, the support from my administration, they brought it to the president's cabinet, and they actually wrote an approval process because of that to share with the campus community. They were so impressed that, you know, this is not a SUNY problem, this is a Brockport problem, quite honestly. And so since we chose to be self-supporting at Brockport, the department was evolved because of that. So we had to write a business proposal as to why we exist and why the parking lots need this and that. So administration, it's all about, about that. So that's what worked for Brockport anyways.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so did we beat a dead horse with LPR event parking? Are we ready to move on? Okay, I have here, let's talk about Chris, Uber Lyft agreements, Transit Authority, which may help Joel as well with some transit issues that RIT has faced. So, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I know over the years campuses, I think USC is everyone's probably familiar with them being kind of the standard of utilizing Lyft, but they are in Southern California where there's not as much parking, it's not as easy to get around by car. But I was just interested to hear if anyone has had any discussions or any plans to craft an agreement with either Uber or Lyft.
So, I don't want to monopolize, and I'm good at monopolizing. Okay, Lyft. Yes, we've had some discussions with Lyft. I thought you silenced that. anyhow, let me just tell you the story and how we got to Lyft, if you don't mind. And so, we talk about accessibility to the college. We talk about accessibility for our students who may not have, who have financial need to get to their internship, or student teaching and all of that. And so we actually created a scholarship of sorts that would allow a student to apply for $100 a semester with the choice of how they want to get from point A to point B, whether it's public transportation, Lyft or Uber, that type of thing, or even carpooling. We'd help them with some carpooling things. And so Lyft, actually, I reached out to Lyft, and they have a university feature, whereas they would allow, they would work with the university and how we, as the campus, wanted to subsidize for the student, and they prepare a budget of sorts. And if the student opt into this feature, they would do it with their campus university email that would authenticate against it, and they would have their budget, and Lyft would provide either the ride from point A to point B, or what I've heard is they're supplementing a lot of internal shuttles too. Right? And so removing bus stops as a stop, I'm sorry, I said it wrong, removing signage that says, you know, your shuttle will stop here. It's more of a Uber or Lyft pickup and drop off point. Is that sort of where, what you were going?
Yeah.
With? So we actually have their proposal on hand. I had to put it aside right now because we were doing we have campus IDs now too. Just, you know, pray for me right now, please. So yeah, campus IDs out of the Welcome Center. But boy, Lyft is very workable. I did have some conversation with Uber. They weren't quite there yet from my conversation with them last year. So I don't know if they've made any headway with it. But I know University of Maryland Baltimore is using Lyft.
Okay.
Robert. I actually
Okay.
got that information from Robert. That's how I learned about it.
Yeah, I think especially, I know one of the other items was the driver shortage, and that is another reason why I think it's important for us to start to really look at this is how do we use, you know, this crew of drivers that are out there already in place of our fixed route service.
So the driver shortage.
Yes.
It's been a couple years since I've been there, but UMass Amherst, we went and did a university forum with them as an EPC, and I think they should do an instruction course on how they're doing their transportation. They run both, so the college runs both the city and the transportation on campus. And what they do is they have a full-on training program, and they get students to drive every semester. And these student drivers also run the city buses, and it's an amazing program.
Really?
It is.
Yes.
It is really. And I was just like, I tried to sell it to our transportation manager, and he wouldn't have it because he thought it was going to put his drivers out of work. And now he's got a shortage. This was, like I said, this was a few years ago. But yeah, I was very impressed with what they've got going on. I would highly recommend reaching out to their transportation director because it is, I mean, they had a full-on they had a trainer on staff that trained all these students, and every year you've got a fresh influx of students. And they're also doing another thing. You're giving students a CDL with a country that's got a driver shortage. I mean, Massachusetts just put the National Guard into buses, and I think colleges have a unique opportunity to do this. I mean, I think this is a huge opportunity to help our driver shortage.
Binghamton also has student drivers.
That is for the LPR.
Well, unfortunately, the way we actually have ours set up, we actually contract out to First Transit for all of our bus needs. So really any drivers would have to be vetted and brought on by them, which, while we're here, thanks to SUNY Brockport for loaning us that bus for the month.
Oh, no worries. Did you like our Eagle?
Didn't get any complaints.
I have a customer in Virginia actually who was looking to switch to Lyft or Uber, and they did the budget and looked at it, and they actually found it didn't work for them in their particular situation. So what they actually did was they switched their bus routes around. So what they have is they actually have a set schedule. So it's not a 24-hour shuttle anymore. It's X time to X time. And what they have is something called ODR, on-demand ride. And so you still have those drivers work at different times, but it picks up one person and drives it to wherever they want, either on campus or off campus, as opposed to driving around with a bus that picks up one person in an hour.
There is a challenge with that on the university campus because a lot of times we can't do temporary part-time employees a lot of times, and it's really hard to find those employees. You almost have to. It's difficult if you have university employees doing like an on-demand service. So I know personally we had troubles with that.
It was at a college that told me about it, so that's interesting.
We're actually using that similar service for our safety ride service that runs from, I think, 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Currently. It works well, and drivers can also just take walk-ups also. So the buses, they hit a handful of stops, so the students just kind of find them or learn the patterns of the drivers. But for the most part, I don't know, Matt, if you know the percentages, but a large percentage are through the app, and it works well. But for larger peaks, it's just we found we over the pandemic we tried to use it on ridership that was more than just kind of onesie-twosie, and it just didn't pan out yet.
Speaking more specifically to that whole service, it is great for the safety shuttle because going from campus to pockets of the surrounding neighborhoods, and students are usually huddled up. You know, they all live in the same neighborhood. They're studying together. You know, same program and stuff. So they're all going in the same direction. So it's easy to move people in the same direction like that. During the pandemic, when we're taking people from, residents on campus to the gym, and then from the student union to this resident, it was just a lot of we're using 20 passenger vehicles, by the way, and we're going back and forth and the travel time, takes 10 minutes to get to one side to the other. Someone's requesting from another place, it's another 10 minutes to get there, so they've already waited 20 minutes for their vehicle. And when you say on-demand transportation, which is what we've termed it on our campus, they're thinking like right now. It's not exactly right now. Yes, the bus is coming to you, but you get, and it tells you all of this through the app. It tells you your estimated time of arrival is 15 minutes from now, but in some cases it wasn't really good enough.
How many campuses or people here on their campus, like rental cars, Zipcar, that type of thing?
Yes.
We at Rockport had it, but the ridership wasn't what they thought it was going to be. And I would imagine now it would be probably threefold of what they wouldn't imagine it to be. Whether it works for you or not.
It is a highly sought after program on RIT. The problem is because of COVID, a lot of their fleet was sold off, and now they're having a hard time being able to recoup that. I know that there's been a lot of talk trying to get more vehicles on RIT's campus, but we're having trouble maintaining the original 3 that we had initially pre-COVID. But our partnership with Zipcar has been great. They actually have kind of a bit of a program with us to be able to just get the students in there, regardless of being, over 21 or, whatnot, so.
Along
with
those,
a lot of, sorry.
Oh, no, please, go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say along those lines, I've noticed just in personal use, getting a Lyft or getting an Uber is almost non-existent.
It's impossible.
Yeah, so I'm curious what campuses are doing right now. Are students seeing that issue that we're seeing? I mean, there's just a driver shortage, not even in buses, but cars.
I haven't heard of anything as far as a shortage of, Uber or Lyft drivers in the area. I know, specifically in the Rochester area, the Uber drivers also drove for like Uber Eats and Grubhub and whatnot. So I don't know if they're switching back to picking up passengers or they're just sticking with the food delivery, but they seem to kind of thrive almost during the pandemic with that kind of stuff.
I've had the opposite. But not on a campus, just in Portland, Maine, I cannot get a lift.
My comment in regards to Zipcar and RIT, you have a huge population of international students, so I can see the need for car sharing. For sure.
Yeah, we went, Buffalo went down from, I think, 14 cars to, I think, 2. They were able to salvage, are we down to 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They took all 4
So
of ours.
it's been,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
been
wow.
a tough semester.
Yeah.
Yeah, our students loved the Zipcar, they really did, so I'm hoping, they promise they're gonna come back in the spring, so even if it's 1 car, I'll take it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with our contact. They're trying to get us new vehicles and
Yeah.
be able to bring us back up to operating capacity.
Yeah, the options are good, the options for our students.
I think we heard November, so, we're starting to look at that watch.
Yeah.
Following up with that
Lot
pretty
happening in
soon.
November with you all.
I think we got the same,
Same memo,
idea, so.
yeah.
I got a
I'm
funny
not
thing.
holding my breath.
I got a funny thing to go along with the Uber, Uber Eats. Our campus is, the address is 3, I can't even think of it. It's
350 New Campus
350
Drive.
New Campus Drive, it's the
Boom.
whole campus.
Yep.
So the Uber drivers, they drive around and around and around, and they end up putting the package at the parking office, so cows end up in.
They put it in our alumni hall. That's because it's the front entrance.
Yeah.
So we get random calls from alumni hall that they have groceries for some such and such student.
It's ironic, it's just,
All right, we'll segue, well, Chris, I wanna make sure, the transit authority, let's,
Yeah, so we have an agreement for so we have our medical school relocated to our downtown area, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. And so we were able to craft an agreement with our area transit provider for a flat fee of $50 per semester per student to gain them access to all bus and rail services in the region. Because we have 18,000 undergraduates and another 12,000 graduate students, they haven't been willing to open that up to the full campus yet. So we've been in some negotiations with them to kind of find a fair middle ground for our price point, or some type of an opt-in mechanism for different components of our student body.
yeah.
And so it's great to provide them, any group with access to transit and mitigate your parking demand, but it's all about that final price that we just couldn't afford to put everyone in the system.
So when you talk about that you offer that already for the med center area, I know that UB bundles their parking and transportation fee together, and it hits the student bill. Like, we're user fee, except for transportation, so I have 2 different budgets. But, so you develop that agreement, that partnership with your local transit authority for a certain segment of your campus. Is that an additional, is that a higher rate? How did you establish, do you pass that fee on to the student, to the riders, I guess is what I'm trying to say. How
Yeah,
does it?
no, we actually
Okay.
took a portion of those, so those medical students pay that same transportation fee, so we took a portion of that, and it pays for their pass, their MTA pass. So that's how that worked. I mean, they aren't parking on either of our main campuses. In our area right now, is our authority is putting in software in the rail stations and in all the buses.
Yeah, we had.
So without that, it's like, how
Yep,
could you
right.
account for it? So
Yeah, well, and before, so it was a manual process, and the drivers were literally checking off how many IDs they would see. Now it is a tab.
Yeah.
So that was a huge cost savings, actually, once we got that in there,
Yeah.
because we were way overpaying.
Quicker.
Yeah.
too.
Yep, oh, absolutely.
It's a good question. To add on that, so the transit agency in our area, we do swipe on the buses, but we're also doing, soon, like RFI, like a code, QR code. Because our IDs, a lot of our ID card office is getting away from hard copy cards, and they're doing it on the phone. So what we're doing is, on the phone, we're doing a QR code that can take the transit bus in the city, that allows them, that tracks them. So we track ridership 2 ways. We track it with a manual swipe right now, swipe it when you get on the bus, but we're getting away from that again because we're trying to, you talk about the environmental aspect a little earlier there, getting away from the plastic cards and just doing it on your phone with the QR code.
Yeah.
That's great. So there'll be a QR code around the transit.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Amy, did we answer your questions in regards to LPR?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Heather, I'm gonna pick on you. So when you were at University of Vermont, you were successful in going gateless. You went from gates to gateless to cash.
We were gateless before it was cool. Yeah, we were gateless. Yeah, 20 years ago. I mean, it was gateless for like, when I got there in 2014, they had been gateless for 10 years.
Okay.
So, it was enforcement. You know, you have a good enforcement team, you really don't need the gates.
Right.
We had great enforcement, and that really worked for us. Cashless was, we had 350 meters that were all expiring, and we needed to replace them. We had already done a pilot with Park Mobile at the time, actually, and it was going very well. And I pitched that we just go to Park Mobile for our visitor spaces, throw up Park Mobile signs instead of new meters. And our VP said, go for it. So we did it. And everybody was a little nervous. They were expecting screaming clients and customers, and we had nothing. Everybody was just like, okay.
They were ready for it.
They were ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero cash, no coins at all.
Nothing.
Wow.
No cash collection
That's
whatsoever.
great.
If you want to pay cash, you literally have to come into the parking office.
We don't even have an office anymore.
You don't have an office anymore, Joel?
It's under construction, but we actually haven't taken any cash payments,
Yeah.
even, I want to say before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We had stopped, everything was credit card or student, Tiger Bucks, whatever they call it.
Yep.
Or, on the rare occasion, a check,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I was just gonna throw in there that USF was cashless from parking since 2009. So there's definitely a lot of predecessors out there that have done that and
Mhm.
without too much issue. Recently through COVID, they went cashless for the entire, anything that's direct university services, so you can't pay tuition with cash, and I thought that was an interesting shift, because we used to send people to the cashier's office, and then
Right.
we were just like, no, can't help you. So I'm not sure what's happening there now, that's happened, but
Yeah,
yeah.
great success
There's
stories.
a lot of savings from not having to collect the cash and the coins and not having to pay to have it picked up, and yeah. it's
No
definitely a
one
way
can
to
pay
go.
their citations with, meter, or with pennies anymore, right?
Yep.
Or petty with
I love
with
that.
pennies, yeah.
Yeah, we're beginning to transition away
Or
from
shove
our
it in your
bubble.
phone.
Yeah, that too.
Come in
Just the
here.
man
time
hours
and
too that it took to
resources.
collect all of them.
Yeah.
Like it's done.
Yeah, right. He's so happy Park Mobile's here. And who had the question, Matthew, maybe, I'm gonna look at you, about, kind of, supporting the app, the cashless app. Was it you? And how do we get parkers to that area? I thought I heard that question, but no, okay, it's all in my head.
I think it was
We all-
that was tied into the LPR, I think, with
Okay,
exporting the data to a third-party app, so people knew
okay, so it
where to go
wasn't,
it wasn't cash related.
okay, so it wasn't a question, it was more, you just wanted to share that information with the group here.
Publishing space counts and stuff like that, where people could,
Thank you.
so we have, I'll just kind of put it out there, we have this app, it's called UB Mobile. You can get pretty much anything, via UB Mobile. Library hours, you can check your dining bucks, I think your UB card is attached to it somehow, but more importantly, our transportation stuff, our schedules, transportation trackers, stuff like that. So we're thinking, while we're getting, the nuts and bolts hammered out for LPR, would it be cool if there was a parking feature within that app where you could say, last published at, 2:30, 50% of alumni A is open. Well, I'm going to the gym so I can park in alumni A, why don't I head right there? And, just something to check right before you, leave the house or whatever, where could I park? Obviously, it's not 100% perfect, and I think there's some terminology that can apply to it, of like, instead of there's 50 spaces open, there's like a, 50% likelihood that you're gonna find a space.
Yeah, that sounds better.
But yeah, this is something we're thinking about, big picture.
Mhm.
It would be
Like
like,
it.
a phase of LPR, if you will.
I like it.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
Yes, of course. course.
General question, really for everybody in the room. Related to maybe office dynamics or hours of operation, whether that be buses, parking offices, consultants. Has anybody reduced their hours of enforcement? Has anybody reduced their hours of busing? General office hours that you may be open? Has anybody reduced, stayed the same, or tried to do different things? I know many of us in this room have had reduced staffs, so maybe open it up to more than just the university. Has anybody else had a reduction in their office dynamics?
Yes.
So Jason, go ahead, Joel.
So we also, once COVID hit, we were kind of in a unique, transition anyways, because RIT brought on what they called the RIT Service Center. So it was a brand new one-stop shop. Instead of trying to call the parking office or IT or, looking up all these numbers, there's one general directory number. If the person that answers that phone isn't able to answer your question immediately, they'll create a ticket and kick it on down the line. So we were already going to be starting to see a reduction in the number of people actually calling us to begin with. And then once COVID hit and we kind of went back to a hybrid office model, we would only have the office open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then once the RSC kicked in, we really tried pushing as much traffic that way. And then over the summer, as our office was slated for construction, we pushed all traffic to the RSC. So we have no in-person office hours really. On any given day, one or more of management will actually be in office. But for the most part, we're on Slack with the service center. If there's an immediate question that can be handled, they'll kick it to us over on Slack. We'll answer it. If nobody's available, it's please create a ticket and we'll get back to them as soon as we possibly can. For enforcement, really no change in enforcement hours. We only operate enforcement from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. So outside of that, we never really historically even had much in the way of enforcement. Maybe a couple of student employees to take a look at handicap and fire lanes, after 5 o'clock. But, and then bus operations, we had to cut back a little bit on a Friday night, Saturday night shuttle service that we had with our regional transit authority, only because our on-campus transit options weren't able to run as late as the connecting shuttles would have. So I think we closed up shop maybe an hour or so earlier than what we normally would have on Friday and Saturday nights.
So with Brockport, sorry.
Anybody out there have any suggestions?
Yeah, I'll come over.
Jump up.
I snuck in a little bit late, sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm Doug
have a
Radke
seat.
from the University of Rochester. We talked about reducing office, but we're in a weird dynamic that we have Strong Memorial Hospital and the Children's Hospital. So we serve the University of Rochester students and then the hospital medical center campuses. So we couldn't reduce our office hours at all. So we're 8 to 8 still, Monday through Friday, and then 8 to 2 on Saturday, something like that. So it's been a struggle. Our office team is short staffed, so they probably have 1 or 2 people in there per day, and then a lot of overtime, which nobody's liking right now. A lot of our management team was working from home for the past 18 months, but we're all back in the office now. So that was a weird dynamic with the office staff being in the office, but most of the management team was kicking their feet up at home. They weren't very happy about that, but kind of what happened, right? In terms of losing parking staff, we're out of 65 staff that we have during the day, we're down 29 positions. So we're not doing a lot of our services that we would normally do right now, but I don't know how we're gonna get back, but it's a struggle.
Like you said there, it's not about overtime, because there's
Right.
more than enough overtime.
There's a lot of it.
People are done with overtime.
Yep.
It's
Right.
fun for a little bit, for a long time.
Right at first, there was absolutely no overtime needed to save as much money as possible. Now it's screw money, we just need people here working.
Kevin and Patrick, did you have any input from the chat room at all? Are we good?
No, we're good on chat, I'm gonna
Okay.
say 4 minutes.
Okay.
So we get the other one in on 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Because what I wanted to say on some of this too is that similar, like we're actually considering going to a virtual office. Due to a variety of factors, what we're looking to do is institute a model where the office doors would be closed. We would still take by appointment only. I think many of us have probably experienced this lately, is that you walk into Starbucks or your favorite place and you're second person in line, let's say, but you're the 12th person in line because there's 10 virtual orders. So what we see right now is a lot of people are trying to do both. They're trying to handle virtual orders and they're trying to handle in-person orders. So you're standing there and you're not getting the same customer service because you're just waiting and you're like, well, why am I waiting? But then they have 10 slips in front of you where you understand, and they're also kind of short-staffed too. So I don't think, well, maybe I'll just say, I believe you can't do both right now. You know, you're being asked to do all your parking and all your stuff online, or your sub order or your coffee order online. And then you're also expected to take in-person, whatever. You know, last Saturday morning, our local Starbucks was closed to in-person traffic. You could go in the drive-through, but they didn't have enough people to staff. So we're also strongly looking into that type of office where we're just gonna handle, what do you really need the office open for? That's what we're really breaking it down. What is the parking office needed for? Right now, especially with all the virtual components,
So-
what do you actually do in the office besides cash?
Because people
What
don't
do
like
you do?
change.
What do you do?
UVM did actually take
Yeah.
on that model.
Yeah.
They are now completely by appointment only, and they have a virtual office. The LPR and going to virtual permits completely helped that move along. But there was two customer service agents had medical reasons why they couldn't be in the office with other, and so they switched to a completely by appointment only, virtual, and it's gone well.
So I just wanted to, I guess, be controversial. I'll challenge the idea that you can't do it both at the same time. I think it might depend on what the work is. And the only reason I say that, so I think a Starbucks, maybe it makes sense because there's some physical component to it, right? But I worked in the cable industry, and while I was in cable, I watched them roll out where people were taking inbound phone calls, but also doing chat sessions. And then they had to find the balance. When they were doing 3 chat sessions and a phone call at the same time, there was a high error rate. But when they reduced it down to only 2 maximum, or one virtual plus 1 phone call, it was seamless. Error rates were really low. You had like 6 sigma on errors and such, right? So I think it really depends on the aggregate and how that all works. Now, cable company has millions of touch points, so it's very easy to get to those balance points. But that, I think you bring up a good question of what are you doing in the office that maybe it can be done while someone's doing something virtual interactions.
And
So
staffing
those are
issues.
actual people that you're talking to on those chats?
What's that?
Those are actual people that you talk to in those chats?
Sometimes
Honestly,
there's
I
AI.
I never trusted that.
There's a lot that are using AI now where
Yeah.
depending on what you ask, it just puts you through a queue
Okay.
of questions, and then it might open up the billing system and pull data. Yeah.
But staffing issues are huge.
Yes,
I mean,
for
it's,
sure.
we're in the worst shortage of employees I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't find staff.
Yeah,
So
the
how are you
transition's
supposed to?
gonna be interesting. Keep us
Yeah,
posted on it.
exactly.
I like it.
Well, we have our drive-through window.
We do have a drive-up window
But
at
they
the
keep on
Welcome
throwing all
Center.
the jobs at us now, so
Right,
we
we
gotta stay
do.
open.
We were the distribution for hand sanitizer and masks and now IDs.
Now we're doing
Oh my gosh, we
IDs.
used to sell, like like Seabreeze.
Entertainment cards.
Yeah, we used to do like a lot of HR functions at the Welcome Center as well.
Job security.
For sure. I'm not turning anything down, but these campus IDs, let me just tell you. But anyhow, any final thoughts from anybody here?
While I was driving over, I was watching the chat, not at the same time, of course. But talking about the LPR, is we've been using LPR for a long time. I would not rely on LPR for occupancy counting. There's any LPR company is gonna tell you it's like 95 to 98 or more.
It's lower.
On a good day. If the car that's driving through the lot and scanning slows down or stops, you can get multiple reads on a plate. You're gonna get reads out of just the grass as they drive by because the AI thinks it's reading something. And then if it's counting those as license plates, you're getting a wrong occupancy count. And then broadcasting that to the public or even using that in your data is just, I wouldn't go LPR for occupancy counting.
We use Parking Logics in my
So
course,
we
and
have
it's pretty good.
4 parking lots, I think, that we're using them in right now. I'm not completely sold. I'm back and forth, but I'm trying to find a better.
It's brand new for my garage. I have a garage up in Bedford, Maine, and I'm curious to see how it works during the wintertime. You know, and then the plows are running over those. I'm just curious.
That's our right up.
That's what I'm concerned about. Yep.
Chat's good?
I think that's a wrap.
Okay, well,